Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's that wonderful time of the year again, where another year for the WWE Hall of Fame to tie into WrestleMania weekend. And it seems that we have quite a few stables actually going in this year that kind of more even out the individual inductees, as we'll soon see. Still, it's a pretty decent class this year we have, and I'm very happy at least for some of the inductees at least. And yeah, I'm Coffee Lover 239. Once again, with me as always is Heavy. Say hi, Heavy.
Hey again.
And today we have a new guest with us here, Dr. Yasif. Say hi, Yasif.
Hello.
Alright, hope you gentlemen are ready. Without wasting any further time, let's get into the inductees. He's cool, he's cocky, he's bad. It's the Honky Tonk Man. Announced as the first individual inductee for this year's Hall of Fame ceremony, his recognized accolades include one-time and longest-reigning WWF Intercontinental Champion at a record of 454 days. Quite a long reign too, but when you count in all the modern champions and all that jazz, yeah, sadly he's kind of fallen a little bit off the ranks to 4th place, falling behind Don Morocco, The Miz, and Pedro Morales. Still though, he has quite the interesting character as well too. First known for his run in the WWF, and of course, he held the Intercontinental Championship for 64 weeks and lost it to the Ultimate Warrior at 1988 SummerSlam. He's also the cousin of Jerry the King Lawler, actually. Interesting fact.
Oh.
Yeah. Alright, now I'm gonna let you guys give your thoughts and your favorite moments from the Honky Tonk Man. We'll start with you, Dee.
Well, Honky Tonk Man, one of the legends that spans back all the way to the first WrestleMania days. He actually started his career in 1997 working in Maiden, Missouri. He came into WWE around the mid-80s, I believe it was 1986. He was first in the company, and not a year later, he won his first Intercontinental Championship, beating Ricky the Dragon Steamboat on an episode of what's the equivalent of Raw. I think it was Superstars at the time.
Yeah, I think so.
So he came into the company as a fan favorite, but that was quickly eradicated because he's cool, he's cocky. He just epitomized personality and charisma at that time. His first major feud was Jake St. Roberts, because I think there was a bit with the Python at WrestleMania where the Python actually turned on Jake to attack him.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of good memories from the Honky Tonk Man. He also had a run in WCW. I don't believe he was there long. He didn't have any titles there, of course, and then he came back for a brief stint in the early 90s. And we've seen comparisons to Elias being the more reserved private singer, whereas Honky Tonk Man was more enigmatic and all over the place, a bit kooky, a bit wacky. What I didn't know is that the Honky Tonk Man is still wrestling to this day. I'm not too sure where he's wrestling, but I know he's been on the independent scene. I think he did a appearance for Lucha Underground Season 3.
Yes, he did.
That's good bit.
Season 3,
yeah.
First episode, as a warden in the prison, returning Dario Cueto sings upon his release. Continue.
It's like one of the things where you expect him to be in that certain company, so you can tell just from that, and let alone that his love for wrestling transcends WWF, WWE, WCW. He would probably go anyway. He'd probably show up in my hometown of Bournemouth. Maybe go to like a 1,000 arena, a 1,000 crowd capacity, just to lace up the boost again. You can tell he loves the wrestling sport, and obviously WWE love him back because he's been inducted into the 2019 Hall of Fame. It's well deserved. I think he should have been inducted many years ago, just maybe even around WrestleMania 25 time, after he did that brief stint with Santino Marella. But yeah, I love his name in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I want to say, by the way, that he was originally, I believe, supposed to be inducted back in 2013, around that time. when that year's WrestleMania was happening, but had a schedule conflict. And with a convention that he was doing that same weekend, and had to turn it down, unfortunately. And what about you, Yusuf? What was your favorite moment?
His gimmick in entire is fucking awesome. I mean, his character basically portraying as Elvis, and I think he's better than Elias because Elias is basically a discount.
I'm not sure I'd go that far personally, but
I mean, they say imitation is the most sincere form of flattery.
I've heard that so many times now, and I'm not sure I'd go so far saying Elias discount Honky Tonk, considering how Elias.
Well, he is basically, but except he's much worse. All he does is sit down. Hello, I am Elias. Someone interferes. That's it.
Yeah, well, I don't want to get too far off into that here. I should mention that one of my favorite moments of Honky Tonk Man was his appearance in the 2001 Royal Rumble as a surprise entrance. And like, that was the year that Kane was just dominating. Like, when he entered, Kane had pretty much thrown everyone who was in the ring out at that point. God, that Rumble was so good. And yeah, he came out, little short promo, sang his song, and then Kane actually smacked him over the head with his own guitar, and then threw him out. It was a nice little short moment, though. But yeah, that's one of my personal favorite moments, and honestly, I'm very glad at least that he is getting inducted. Again, it should have happened sooner, but hey, we're getting it now. Our next inductee is Torrie Wilson. Torrie Wilson, a key figure in WCW's invasion of WWE and a pivotal member of the WWE Women's Division who helped blaze the trail for women in sports entertainment. Ugh. And she was featured on the cover of Playboy twice during her WWE career, something that you would probably never ever see in this day and age. So yeah, Torrie Wilson. As a fitness competitor, she actually won the Miss Galaxy competition in 1999, and shortly after, she was signed by WCW. She stayed from 1999 until 2000. In 2001, she began appearing in the WWF television as part of the Invasion angle. Yeesh. The less said about that, the better. Yeah. And her most high-profile storyline took place in 2003 when she feuded with Dawn Marie. And she's also been a part of the all-female stable known as Vince's Devils, which ended its run in 2006. And she's also been on the cover of several magazines, including FHM, and of course, as we mentioned before, Playboy. She posed for her twice, one actually featuring both Wilson and Sable. Yeah, isn't that something? Healy, we'll start with you. Do you have any favorite moments of Torrie Wilson?
I mean, the only reason I can think of Torrie Wilson being in the Hall of Fame, I'm not completely against it. I think if she's going in, this will be for the same exact reason that maybe Alicia Fox may go one day, and that's just because of longevity. Yeah, so as you said, starting her career in '99, where she was basically just a valet. I think she was a valet of people such as David Flair, maybe Scott Steiner. I think it was Scott Steiner too. A bit wasted in WCW, but then again, there wasn't really much. The grass wasn't always as green as they say, as concerns to making her debut on WWE television. I think she started off as Vince McMahon's latest affair. She also was part of multiple. I'm not sure what the actual title match was, but it was basically the bikini matches. Yeah, and then there was a feud, I believe, in 2004 with Melina. Oh, it was a Bra and Panties match. That's the name. But you see, it's kind of sad that when you think back to Torrie Wilson, all you can think of is being, valet work and Bra and Panties matches. I think she would have fared much better in this women's evolution if she wasn't, stuck down to gender roles and how lopsided they seemed in the mid 2000s. She's had, I think she had relationships with characters such as Carlito and Jimmy Wang Yang, which really says a lot about what they had for the time. Just complete mismatches. She has made a few appearances this year. She was on Raw 25. She competed in the Women's Royal Rumble. Not this year, last year. And in October of 2018 too, there was that battle royal that kicked off Evolution. she was part of that too.
I don't think it kicked off though. Might have been a little later in the show, but yeah, she was in that.
Yeah, Battle. It's just Battle Royals always seems part of like something that would kick off a major show like that. But yeah, I don't really know. But the thing is, not really much noteworthy accolades. I don't believe she's ever won a championship in WWE or WCW.
No, she hasn't.
No, there's an argument that there was a lot of unused potential. The fact that she could have been challenging the Mickey Jameses and Litas, maybe even a bit into the future with Michelle McCool. She could have came back with a run there, but she did retire in 2008, I believe, after being released from her contract. But yeah,
sort of retirement then essentially.
Yeah, so
they brought her back for like the what was it? The Miss WrestleMania Battle Royal at WrestleMania 25.
Yeah,
alongside
legends such as Victoria, Sunny, Molly Holly, and the event. I think it was a runner-up, or it was another member, Beth Phoenix.
I believe Beth Phoenix was the runner-up in that match to
God, I'm not Santina. I won't even.
Marella. And of course, she also returned alongside other lackeys like Jackie Gadea and Joy Giovanni. Ugh.
If I had a word to place on Torrie Wilson, I would put wasted. Okay, let's put it in. Let's put the little dash in between. Wasted potential. She could have done so much more. I think maybe injuries got her sidelined, kept her off from whatever WWE had originally planned for her. Maybe if she stayed in WCW longer, she could have became a household name as one of the few who sunk with the ship and eventually came over to WWE. But I think if she maybe stayed a few more years, if her body allowed her to, then maybe there wouldn't be so many people having an uproar, with WWE's announcement of this. But again, obviously she's had a long tenured career. She's done a lot in her time, even if it's not championship glory or high-profile caliber matches. But at the same time, she was a prominent figure in the mid-2000s and earlier, even if it was not at the peak of women's revolution. But yeah, definitely one of the weaker entries into the Hall of Fame, but a good entry nonetheless.
I say so as well. I think the thing is just her going in before other women like Luna Vachon and Miss Elizabeth as well. That's kind of got people up in arms. And yeah, the landscape for women's wrestling was drastically different from what it is now. Like, when you look at how it was back in the early 2000s during the Ruthless Aggression era, and how you look at it now, it is like night and day difference too. It is almost mind-blowing. It's like, man, we've really come a long way, haven't we? Anyways, Yosef, do you have any favorite moments of Torrie Wilson?
Nope. Except for beating her up in WWE SmackDown Shut Your Mouth.
Oh, man. Oh, that was a great game. Yeah, great game. As for me, I can't say I have really too many moments with her. There's a few here, like during the whole Invasion mess, there was that match she had with Trish Stratus, the Raw after the Invasion pay-per-view with Trish Stratus and Torrie Wilson in the infamous paddle on a pole match. And this was a few years after Russo left. Yeah, and of course she had a bit of an on-screen romance with Tajiri as well. Probably I'd say one of the more notable things was that paddle on a pole match. And what else is there here? I'm trying to think.
A pole match?
Yeah, it was a paddle on a pole match. It was her and Trish Stratus. It was the Raw after the Invasion pay-per-view.
Oh.
Yeah. That was crazy here. And of course, there's some other stuff. I think that's probably enough to be said about here. Let's go on. Hey, just a little quick disclaimer. All the other footage besides this one talking about Brutus the Barber Beefcake was shot before he was confirmed for the Hall of Fame. And our third wheel on this podcast, Yusuf, couldn't be here with us at the time of recording. But he did want me to pass on his thoughts that he didn't know much about Brutus the Barber Beefcake, so not much to say about him here. Anyways, enjoy. Our next inductee is Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Now here's one you look at and you think, what? He's not already inducted? Apparently not, and I actually knew about this part here. I thought he was, but apparently not. And only now he's getting inducted as the final inductee. Well, this was actually recorded before, as mentioned in the disclaimer. So, yeah. Anyways, Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Recognized accolades, one-time WWF Tag Team Champion with Greg the Hammer Valentine, and I'll get into that. Yeah, of course, he best known working in the WWF, and he actually later worked for WCW under different names as well. Though he did overall hold about 9 titles through his career, and competed for major singles titles on pay-per-view and television, headlining Starrcade 1994, in a match against then WCW World Heavyweight Champion Hulk Hogan, as well as challenging then Intercontinental Champion and fellow Hall of Fame inductee, the Honky Tonk Man, at WrestleMania 4. So, Beefcake started off about in the late 70s at the side of Terry Boella, aka Hulk Hogan, and at the time they were billed as Ed Boulder, with Boella wrestled as Terry Boulder, and Dizzy Hogan, which Boella became Hulk Hogan. It created confusion amongst later years, and Beefcake did work in actually Bill Watts' Mid-South territory very briefly and sporadically between 1980 and 1982 in the WWF. And then eventually he was brought in 1984 as Brutus the Barber Beefcake, managed by Johnny Valiant. And later on, he ended up teaming with Greg the Hammer Valentine in the summer of 1985, and they became the Dream Team. And they challenged the US Express, Mike Rotunda, and Barry Windham for the WWF Tag Team Championship. Initially, the US Express successfully beat them, but at the August 24th show in the Philadelphia Spectrum, the Dream Team won after Beefcake rubbed Valiant's lit cigar into Windham's eye, and they defended the belts for about 8 months, primarily from a reformed US Express with Dan Spivey in the place of Windham and the British Bulldogs. At WrestleMania 2 in Rosemont, Illinois, the Dream Team lost the title to the British Bulldog. They were unsuccessful though in rematches and later dropped to mid-card status. They broke up basically after WrestleMania 3, and yeah, that's kind of the notable feud at least here. And of course, like we mentioned before, Beefcake was involved in the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship tournament during the spring and summer of 1990, and they were counted out in the first round, or he was, and he was actually scheduled for WrestleMania 6 rematch for the Intercontinental Championship against Mr. Perfect, well, it's SummerSlam that year. Unfortunately, though, in July 1990, he did some other stuff here, like I mentioned, throughout the 80s. Let's see, he feuded with Outlaw Ron Bass in 1988. He feuded with the Honky Tonk Man, and he actually vowed to not only win the title, but put Honky to sleep and cut off his duck's tail. He never made good on his vow, though, since Honky got himself disqualified for most of their matches. And that was a little interesting feud for a bit. Unfortunately, in July of 1990, a serious parasailing accident put him out of action. He was helping his parasailer friend prepare for takeoff, and when the driver of the boat mistook a cue to take off, and he mistook the cue to take off, and pulled the friend's bare feet hard into Leslie's face, crushing his facial skeleton. His real name's Leslie, yeah. So, over 100 metal plates were needed to repair it, and his career was put on hold for about 2 years. And then, his last WWF appearance was at the infamous WrestleMania 9, although he remained active on the house show circuit. And by like the end of the year, or midpoint around that time, he ended up leaving, and he went to WCW for a bit here. Yeah, I don't remember too much about this run, at least, in WCW. Edie, do you have anything to add? Do you have any favorite moments of Beefcake?
Maybe the match that solidified his most famous or infamous gimmick, depending on how he looks at him as a heel or face. the match against Adrian Adonis, where I believe that Adrian lost, and that meant he got his head shaved, and Beefcake did, of course, was the one to do it, and that's why he came up with the name The Barber. He's been closely linked with Hulk Hogan throughout his career, alongside even Koloff. Hogan was the one to train Brutus Beefcake. They also feuded. I think they had a tag match where they defeated Randy Savage and Zeus. If you can remember that far back, it was a bit of an odd time. He had a brief stint in WCW, 2 stints, I believe. It was mid-90s and then late 90s. He's gone under a lot of names. Let me read some names off for you. Baron Beefcake, Big Brother Booty, the Booty Man, Brother Brute Force. Of course, there was Brutus Beefcake, the Butcher, the Clipmaster, the Disciple, which was Brutus's gimmick in WCW. Dizzy Hogan, which you alluded to earlier, beginning of his career. Ed Boulder, Eddie Hogan, the Marionette, the man with no name, quite ironic with how many names he's been given, and finally...
Yeah.
So, closely linked to Hogan, not only in WWE, but also in WCW. Hogan brought Beefcake in as the Disciple. And I think it was during the time where Hogan were feuding at the time. But yeah, it wasn't like the longest stint. It was his last match in WCW was that World War III Battle Royal. I think don't hold me to ransom over this, but I think it was Big Show, who was known as the Giant in WCW, who ended up winning that match. So for the last maybe just like 18, 19 years, he's been semi-retired. He's not been wrestling that much. He's done a lot of independent circuits, even appearing on Hulk Hogan's Celebrity Championship Wrestling. So definitely has that affinity to Hulk Hogan in nearly every way he goes, every aspect of but a lot of like sporadic appearances here and there since leaving WCW in 1999. And yeah, I'm surprised that he hasn't been inducted sooner. He was a great heel back in the 80s and 90s. He didn't win a title in WWF at the time, I don't think, because when he had that incident, he was scheduled to compete for the Intercontinental title. But a month before that was when the parasailing accident actually occurred. And we talk about how he was probably slated to win the Intercontinental title. He could have. I'm going to make a bold statement here. He could have made a good WWF champion. He had the gimmick, he had the look, he had the muscle and the charisma, everything that Vince admired. I'm not sure why that didn't take effect, but maybe it was Hulk Hogan didn't want him to eclipse his star power, even though it's Hulk Hogan. But yeah, great induction. I'm glad they did announce it before it was too late. Before we'd have to wait next year, because this is been a long time coming, and it's great to see Brutus in the Hall of Fame finally.
Indeed, and I should mention that match was actually Roddy Piper versus Adrian Adonis at Mania 3. Yeah, but Brutus took the honor of, shaving Adonis, and that's how he got the nickname Brutus the Barber Beefcake. That's where it all started. That's where it really got the Barber nickname. And man, oh man. Again, I really don't have too much else to say actually about it. He's definitely had this induction coming, and finally at least glad to see it happen, at least while he's still alive, because sadly some other inductees who are getting inducted don't get to see their own induction, and it's kind of sad, but thankfully this is not one of those cases. It definitely is great to see Brutus the Barber Beefcake take his rightful place in the WWE Hall of Fame. Oh yes, baby. Oh, such a great induction here. And I've just got 3 words for it. Are you ready? Oh, yes. D-Generation X. Oh, I've been waiting for this moment for so long for these D-Generation X to get inducted. And here they are. Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Chyna, yes, Chyna, Billy Gunn, Road Dogg, X-Pac, D-Generation X, one of the leading factions of the Attitude Era, credited as having pushed the envelope as to what was accepted on TV. Different versions of the group existed into the 2010s, with the New Age Outlaws, and Triple H and Shawn Michaels having held the WWF/World and WWE Tag Team Championship as part of the faction. And with Shawn Michaels being inducted as part of the group, this makes him a two-time inductee now, a new two-time inductee. And we've got plenty more of those to come, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, we've got Triple H, who's got his own career and could be inducted for that. We've got Chyna, posthumous inductee. Of course, she was the first woman to participate in the Royal Rumble match and King of the Ring tournament, and the first and only woman to hold the WWF Intercontinental Championship, and she held it twice. She also held the WWF Women's Championship once closer to the end of her run. Of course, Billy Gunn and Road Dogg, the New Age Outlaws. They've got their own things going, and they could have been inducted on their own. And X-Pac, of course. Two-time WWF European Champion, two-time WWF Light Heavyweight Champion, two-time WCW Cruiserweight Champion, four-time WWF Tag Team Champion, one-time WCW World Tag Team Champion, and has pretty much coined the phrase X-Pac. So, what can I say about D-Generation X that hasn't already been said? After its original run with Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Chyna, and Rick Rude, the group expanded to become a mainstay of the Attitude Era, with of course the new additions like X-Pac and the Outlaws, and Torrie, not Torrie Wilson, but a different Torrie, until it disbanded in August of 2002. And DX briefly reformed in June 2006 as the duo of Triple H and Shawn Michaels for the remainder of the year, and again in August of 2009 until March 2010 before Michaels' retirement. This incarnation actually voted the greatest WWE Tag Team Champions of all time in a 2013 viewer poll. Yeesh. And unfortunately, DX faced the Brothers of Destruction at that one show. I'm not going to say its name, and I recommend YouTube refrain from saying it. But that match was a dumpster fire, but it doesn't take away from all the other great stuff from the 90s that DX have done. So, Heathy, any favorite moments from DX?
Well, my favourite moments, DX were originally brought in as a heel team. There was comparisons to NWO because NWO was created for D-Generation X. They brought in as a heel team, and they quickly squashed the rumours, not only squashing them but also changing the alliance, because NWO was hugely a heel faction. D-Generation X did turn face, and it was solidified. Can't remember the night, but it was on an episode of Monday Night Raw in 1999. And it did help sway the Monday Night Wars in favour of WWF at the time. The DX Army, I believe it was Michaels and Triple H, Billy Gunn, Road Dogg, X-Pac, John. I think that they were all there at the time. They infiltrated WCW.
Oh yes,
yeah,
I love that moment.
There's been various iterations of this amazing and immense stable. We've had come in, even when it didn't seem like you'd think the name Rick Rude and what DX stood for, that would be a perfect fit, but it wasn't to be. You would be seeing Rick Rude enter alongside DX, but no, they've not been a mainstay, but they've definitely been prominent around the last 20 years or so. They started in 1997, disbanded around 2000. And I think there was a teaser reunion in 2003 or 2002, 2004, one of them, where Triple H turned heel, and he did turn back into his face role that people think kind of took a leg from underneath him, as heel Triple H in DX was probably some of his best work, especially around the time he started to break off, and in 1999 with his My Time theme music. Yeah, what I remember from DX in my personal childhood was 2006 when they came back. That was when I first started getting into wrestling, and all the stuff they were doing with the Spirit Squad, and Shane McMahon and Vince McMahon. Best moments about mid 2000s was, I think, that was the shit shower that they gave McMahon's on one episode of Raw. and also sending this at the end of the Spirit Squad run, sending them back to OVW on a crate. They did come back for a brief time for 2009, and that was to fend off the attacks of Legacy, Cody Rhodes, Ted DiBiase, and I don't believe it was Randy Orton at the time, but it could have been. I'm not sure Randy Orton was doing his own thing at the time. I remember that submission match they had at Breaking Point, which Legacy won, and DX got their heat back in a brutal Hell in a Cell match at the titular pay-per-view. And they've had reunions since 2010, near the end of Shawn Michaels' run, and a bit after 2012, I think, on Raw 1000 with the whole Heath Slater angle with Vader and China, everyone else. Not China. China was never, all of the legends coming back for that one time. There's been various multiple tag teams. There's been Road Dogg and X-Pac, Billy Gunn, Road Dogg, Michaels, Triple H, and it's on and off the lot. The last titles that DX held as a tag team was in 2014, I believe, when the New Age Outlaws defeated the Usos at the Royal Rumble, and they lost it the following pay-per-view, or after that, and then they the last time Gunn and Road Dogg I think had a proper big stage match was at WrestleMania 30, when them and Corporate Kane lost to the Shield in convincing fashion. They've been on the independent circuit 2015 and 2016, maybe 2017, but Billy Gunn and X-Pac did reform for a bit. I think they were in Chicago at one point. Anything else? I mean, we do have to talk about the 2018 mini reunion. Michael's coming.
No.
I know.
No, do we have to really? I just want to. It was building into, quite frankly. I don't want to focus on that so much. Just keep it short.
Yeah, what about the reunion in WrestleMania 31?
That was
the
another
run in there, when DX ran
DX
in to help
versus,
Taker, and the NWO ran in to help Sting. Yeah, that was pretty good as well.
I think there's been a lot of solid content over the past, not recently, but the past 20 years, there's been a lot of solid content. But over the past few years, there have been a lot of hit and miss segments. The promo work heading into the pay-per-view that shall not be named, I don't think it was that bad, but of course the tag match, we will not delve into that because that would be unfairly tarnishing the speech that we are given this great tag team and stable. One thing I am a bit sad about is the fact that Chyna's not getting her own induction. Maybe this
later down the line.
Leads to an induction on her own. I mean, the things she did, entering number 30 in a Rumble, that was groundbreaking, becoming the first ever woman to hold a men's title. I'm not sure if it's been done since, but she won the Intercontinental Championship from Jeff Jarrett, I believe, in a I'm not sure it was the clean housekeeping match, but
good housekeeping match.
No
Mercy, 1999.
Yeah, I think that's what led Jeff Jarrett to leave the WWF. But no, I definitely. If I'm looking at this lineup right now, and I wouldn't, maybe with the exception of the Hart Foundation, I don't know. I can't say that the Generation X are the right people to headline this lineup. And this means that Triple H, I mean, we all know what happened to Ric Flair. I think didn't he get inducted in 2008 and retired the next night after losing to Shawn Michaels? And Triple H has added that stipulation that if he loses to Batista, he will never wrestle in the WWE ring ever again. Maybe it's a little bit of a spoiler. I don't know, but
I don't know. It's just probably too.
It's a little fun fact for you guys anyway. But yeah, D-Generation X going to be remembered for years and years to come, maybe even decades. Definitely were trailblazers of that Attitude Era. If they weren't in the Attitude Era, who knows? Maybe WCW would be the company that we're doing podcasts on tonight. Who knows?
I know.
But yeah, great induction, loving it. Can't wait to hear the speech on next Saturday, I believe, or next Friday. It's 1 or 2.
1 week from today, actually, I believe, is when the Hall of Fame is happening. Today is March 30th at the time of recording it. Yeah, next week, Saturday, April 6th, that's when it's happening. And Yusuf?
So after WrestleMania,
Yeah, and Yusuf, do you have any favorite DX moments?
every single moment of mine. I mean, they are the one who started the Attitude Era.
Yeah, there's really not much else we can say about them. One of my other favorite moments, when they had this kind of sort of State of the Union-ish parody, but with like certain swear words addressing the network, like, we will not use these certain swear words and we will only use these, but they end up using the ones they said they were not going to use. It's pretty funny. If you look it up, I don't think it's on the network. I don't remember if it is, but if you search around hard enough, you should find the clip itself. It's pretty damn funny, actually, and I would recommend taking a look at it, and a lot of the other great things that DX has done. Not really a fan of some of the later stuff that they did in their later years, like their 2006 run. That was a little for me, but it is what it is, and still, I think DX is more than deserving to go in, and yeah, if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for ya. Suck it! And our next inductee is the team of Harlem Heat, Booker T and Stevie Ray. Yes, this makes Booker T our other 2-time Hall of Famer this year, who was previously inducted in 2013 for his career. And now, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really watch too much WCW at all, I should say. Actually, I should say I really didn't watch a lot at any WCW at all, because I was born in 97, so they are kind of a little bit before my time, essentially, and I kind of miss it, and same for probably some of us, but I'll at least try and give you some background the best I can. Of course, Harlem Heat, made up of, well, Booker T and Stevie Ray, real-life brothers, and of course they achieved their greatest success in WCW. And of course, recognized accolades, 10-time WCW World Tag Team Champions. Oh, and Stevie Ray has 1-time WCW Television Champion accolade there, but that's beside the point. And of course, we mentioned Booker was previously inducted. But yeah, the team achieved their greatest success in WCW, like you said. They won 10 times. And Kevin Powers of WWE remarked, when debating the greatest tag team in WCW history, Harlem Heat and the Steiner brothers are more or less interchangeable. And they started out as the Huffman brothers here in Ivan Putski's Western Wrestling Alliance. Excuse me. After a brief feud with each other, then that Fed seized operations. They did some other stuff around Texas, and then they ended up in WCW here. They kind of have a weird little thing here. They were booked in they debuted in August of 1993, of course, as Harlem Heat, but Booker was renamed Cole, and Lash, aka Stevie Ray, was renamed Kane. And they were billed from Harlem, even though they were born from Houston. They're actually from Houston, but I digress. And originally, they were actually supposed to be a pair of wrestling prisoners won in a card game by manager Colonel Rob Parker. But it was changed due to racial sensitivity based on their look, coming out to the ring in wrist and foot shackles. I don't even think there's actually, like, footage of this, actually. Like, I don't think it actually exists as far as I know, from what I've heard. And, of course, all I can say is the rest is what it is here. They were heels for a bit, feuded with Vader and Sid Vicious at the War Games, Fall Brawl 1993 against Sting, Davey Boy Smith, Dustin Rhodes, and the Shockmaster. Yeah, they lost the match, but were over as heels because of the caliber of the faces they wrestled. Since Sister Sherry, rest in peace, began managing the team in 1994, their names were changed back to Booker T and Stevie Ray at their request. And by the end of that year, they were already the start of what would be 10 tag team championships, defeating Stars and Stripes in December en route to a bit of a 5-month title reign. And, well, the rest is history, for lack of a better term. Healy, I know, I'm not sure if you really watched a whole lot of WCW, but do you have anything to say?
I've done my research a bit before this. Of course, I was not alive at the heyday. They broke up around the time that I was born. They were originally called the Ebony Experience. As you know, they had the start out in Texas. There was a promotion in Dallas called the Global Wrestling Federation. They became tag team champions there. I don't think it lasted too long. It was definitely a month from what knowledge I have right now. Maybe a week to a month is what I'm thinking, but they definitely didn't have it for that long. There was still a lot to be learned. But yeah, Harlem Heat, 1993. Next year, they were. You mentioned Stars and Stripes. The names were The Patriot and Marcus Alexander Bagwell. I'm not sure if Marcus Bagwell is Buff Bagwell.
Yes, Marcus Alexander Bagwell is Buff Bagwell.
Okay, I would be surprised if there was more than 2 Bagwells. Not counting Judy in WCW.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they've been faces, heels, tweeners. They feud with Colonel Parker, Dick Slater, and Bunkhouse Buck. There was also a point in WCW history where Stevie Ray was a part of the NWO, so they were split up for quite a while. This was after Stevie Ray was off injured, and once he came back, I think it was for about 1998 to 1999, around a year, early 1998, and then by mid 1999 they came back as a team, and that was their final year in WCW, I believe. They had this brief repackage as Harlem Heat 2000.
Except Booker wasn't there with it at the time. It was like Stevie Ray. He formed it with Big T, aka Ahmet Johnson, Cash, formerly known as 4x4 from the No Limit Soldier, and Jay Biggs, not to be confused with the one seen on Wrestling with Regret. And it was Stevie and Big T referring to themselves like as Harlem Heat 2000.
Oh yeah, because Booker T actually lost the T in his name as long as his music correct, and that's where they got Big T from.
Yeah, apparently. It was owned by Harlem Heat, and he was referred to as simply Booker.
Which, funny enough, became the case again in 2006 when Booker T became King Booker, losing the T again, but that was...
Because he won the King of the Ring that year.
Yeah,
and so
he became World Heavyweight Champion, beating Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Booker T's single success definitely, I wouldn't say definitely, of course, 10-time WCW Tag Team Champions, how can you overlook that? Are you serious? But yeah, exactly. But Booker T definitely enjoyed singles success nearly as much as tag title success. Stevie Ray, on the other hand, not so much. I'm not actually too clued up on what Stevie did outside of WCW. Maybe he remained wrestling. I'm not too sure. Maybe he went. I think Stevie's like 60 years old now. So if they were in 2000, Stevie would be looking at the back end of his career.
Well, I'll let you know that after WCW folded, he wrestled a few matches in World Wrestling All-Stars against Ernest Miller in 2002, and then he ultimately retired that year.
So, yeah, and then they weren't seen again for a decade and a half. So, obviously, we've heard from multiple kickoff panels, which too sure of many watch them on WWE pay-per-views. But Booker T has this wrestling promotion called Reality Wrestling, and in 2015 they actually wrestled their last match together. They returned for one last night, and it was called the Final Heat event, fittingly named, and they defeated. I'm pretty sure they're not actually the New Heavenly Bodies, but they were called the New Heavenly Bodies, and they won the Tag Team Championships, shortly vacating them after, I believe.
Yes, they did actually.
And I think up until now, that's been the one true conclusion of the Harlem Heat story in wrestling.
Yeah, and that actually happened. That happened actually not too far from me, actually, given that I live in Houston, so it's not really much of a surprise. But hey, it is what it is here too. Yusuf, do you have anything to add to this?
No, I never watched WCW.
Yeah, neither did I. I didn't get a chance to, unfortunately. Kind of sucks, but hey, that's why we have the network at least. So, you wanna we'll probably maybe try to catch up at some point, but time is so limited, Too bad WWE doesn't think so, but ladies and gentlemen, we'll get to that when we get to that. But Yeah, it's glad to at least see Harlem Heat go in. They were a notable tag team. It is kind of a little bit irking to see them go in a bit at times before teams like Demolition and all that jazz, but kind of know why Demolition hasn't quite gone in yet. But that's not the time and this is not the time and place to do it. All I'm gonna say is congrats Harlem Heat for going in. And let's go on to the next team. And our next inductee is the Hart Foundation. The original team of Bret the Hitman Hart, which makes him our third two-time inductee this round, previously inducted in 2006 for his individual career, and the late Jim the Anvil Neidhart, making him his second posthumous inductee behind Chyna. Oh, the Hart Foundation. What a very, very wonderful stable. Now, the original Hart Foundation began in 1985 when Jim the Anvil Neidhart, already managed by Jimmy Hart, joined his brother-in-law, Bret the Hitman Hart, to form a villainous tag team. According to Bret, the tag team originated after he turned down the cowboy Bret Hart gimmick he was given, claiming that he did not take a liking to it. He then suggested to the WWF management that he would prefer to be teamed up with Neidhart. Management at first laughed the idea, but months later as Hart was about to quit, he was given what he wanted, he was allowed to become a villain, and partnered up with Neidhart and Jimmy Mal from the South Hart to form the Hart Foundation. They made their pay-per-view debut at WrestleMania 2 in 1986 as part of the 20-man Battle Royal, which also included NFL stars. And they were the final two men whom Andre the Giant eliminated to win that Battle Royale. And they started feuding their first big feud here, like as a mid-card team, when they feuded with the Killer Bees, Jumping Jim Brunzel and B. Brian Blair. And Saturday night's main event, they faced the Bees in a tag team match, which the Bees won, and then the Hart Foundation continued to feud with the Bees for the better part of 1986. And of course, they feuded with the British Bulldogs over the title, and they actually, on the February 7th edition of Superstars in Tampa, the Harts actually defeated the Bulldogs for their first WWF Tag Team Championship. When the referee of the match, Dangerous Danny Davis, helped the Harts win the match, and Davis became a member of the Hart Foundation. Yeah, and this was the first of their only two tag team champions reigns? I could have sworn it felt a little longer. Maybe it was the vein of everything, you know. But they feuded, of course, with the British Bulldogs for the titles. And of course, they had Dangerous Danny Davis helping them out. And of course, there was some other stuff here. They feuded with Strike Force and lost the titles to them, like Rick Martel and Tito Santana. It was Neidhart submitted to a Boston Crab applied by Martel, ending their 10-month reign. Yeah, and there was some other great stuff here. I'm trying to look through here. There's just so much here. And when was the second time they won the belts here I'm looking at? Yeah, I'm looking here with this stuff. I'm trying to remember exactly, but it's a little hard to read a bit of it here, but still, they had a lot of good feuds. Yeah, it was actually kind of a, what was it here? SummerSlam 90, actually, I believe it was. If I remember, if I can find it. Yes, it was SummerSlam 90. A 2 out of 3 falls match against Demolition. So yeah, this was a very prominent tag team, but at least I'm still mostly familiar. Of course, I'd have to be. They were very, of course, throughout the late 80s and a little bit of the early 90s. And then finally, their second title reign ended after WrestleMania, what is that, 7? Yeah, 7, where they were defeated by the Nasty Boys, and then they split after that. Now, it's only the original Hart Foundation here inducted. There's been plenty of other variations over the years. The New Foundation...
Yeah, there was one in ROH that with Teddy Hart and...
Yeah, the New Foundation, which had Owen Hart, and the new Hart Foundation, which have had Bret and Jim, but also had Owen, the British Bulldog, and Brian Pillman. Yeah, that was interesting. But no, it's the only original team that's getting inducted. These two are pretty notable during the late 80s, you know. And they've had a lot of interesting stuff going on too, and I have to say, we're always entertaining to watch as well. It's just a shame that it only... Oh, good lord, it's just a shame that only now they're doing it after Jim the Anvil Neidhart unfortunately passed away. Healy, do you have any favorite moments of the Hart Foundation?
Not really. I wasn't really around when they were teaming. Obviously, the newest situation, the Hart and Stroke Foundation with Mike Hart and Joey Valentine Smith Hart as a manager. The Hart Dynasty with David Hart Smith, Tyson Kidd, Bret Hart. Yeah, but they debuted in 1985 and they disbanded around 1991. And that was including Bret Hart and Jimmy Hart and Danny Davis did come in, but they both left in 1988. There was also the new foundation you mentioned with Owen Hart and Jim Neidhart. There is a lot, and obviously the new Hart Foundation from March until November of the same year of 1997. There is a lot of debate on whether Owen Hart should be included as part of the Hart Foundation, but I wouldn't say so because ever since its installation up until a decade later, and even in 1997, it's definitely the main two characters have been Jim Neidhart and Bret Hart. More so Jim Neidhart, he was more integral to the nucleus of the Hart Foundation, and Bret Hart is in because his career is just I wouldn't say eons ahead of everyone else in the Hart Foundation, but he's been extremely successful in the time that he was a part of WWF. There was a tiny stint in
WCW?
No, it was in 2008 to 2010.
Oh wait.
With David Hart Smith, Dyson Kidd, and Bret Hart too, alongside Natalia. But you can tell this is a group that's transcended decades and generations, mainly due to like the success of Tyson Kidd and David Hart Smith following in the footsteps of the original two with tag team title glory. Bret Hart also becoming a United States champion in 2010, June 2010, I believe.
That was a little unreal.
I don't know, tapping out the Miz. It's a great tag team. It's something it falls into a bit of an unknown category because
it was actually useless to make him a United States champion.
Yeah.
Quite useless to be honest.
So there's been a lot of people entered into this Hart Foundation, but you can definitely tell that the two main characters, the two main members who made the Hart Foundation what they are Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart. And even though they only held the WWF Tag Team Championship championships twice, they've always been in amongst the picture or been part of a storyline that's been around them titles. If they weren't around in the 90s and the late 80s and the early 90s, the landscape of WWF would look a hell of a lot different, and I don't think that Bret Hart would have been catapulted to such success. I mean, you talk about the Montreal Screwjob and most of the Hart Foundation leaving after that. But you talk about that slow face turn in 1988 and the Battered News Brown eliminating him in the Battle Royal, double crossing him as he was in alliance with them. So yeah, if it wasn't for this Hart Foundation, Bret Hart, I don't think he would have been a main eventer. That's just how cutthroat it was in the late 80s. But yeah, good induction.
Indeed.
Yeah, exactly.
You have any moments, Gusev?
Oh boy. No, not actually.
Yeah, kind of was a little bit before our time, admittedly, but still, they were definitely a notable tag team.
Still only did it for 6 years. It debuted in 1985 and disbanded in 1991.
Yeah. I mean, still though, like I said, the group's like spirit has sort of been going on through all the various revamps, like the new Hart Foundation, the Hart Foundation 2.0 with Teddy Hart and Jack Evans, the Next Generation Hart Foundation, which had D.H. Smith, Tyson Kidd, Natalia, Teddy Hart, and Ted DiBiase Jr. Huh. And
Wait, when was he there?
This was the Next Generation Hart Foundation was June 26, 2007 to 2008. But
I never remember him even being there. What the heck?
Oh, that was mostly because they was only in the developmental territory. This is around the time they launched Florida Championship Wrestling.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there was the Hart Dynasty, which was David Hart Smith, Tyson Kidd, Natalia, and Bret Hart from 2008 to around November 15th, 2010. The Hart and Stroke Foundation here. Yeah, Mike Hart, Joey Valentine, and Smith Hart. And then the last one, the New Era Hart Foundation with Davey Boy Smith Jr., Teddy Hart, and Brian Pillman Jr. in Major League Wrestling. So definitely, you could feel the Hart Foundation has gone on to do so many like sort of sub-bases of sorts, so many different incarnations. But we can't forget where it all started in 1985
Exactly.
with Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart. God
Exactly.
rest in peace, Jim Neidhart. We miss you. And finally, our last piece of this whole thing, as it always seems to come down to, is the Warrior Award. Yes, the annual yearly Warrior Award. And on March 18th of this year, it was announced that WWE Senior Director of Talent Relations, Sue Atchison, would be the recipient of the 2019 Warrior Award. And notes here, yes, of course, she's a WWE executive, as I mentioned here, Senior Director of Talent Relations, and spearheaded many of WWE's charitable programs, including its partnership with the Make-A-Wish Foundation and their WrestleMania reading program. Definitely, I think, at least closer to what the award is supposed to represent, but it almost sort of hasn't. I don't want to say it fully hasn't represented what it's supposed to be, but it's sort of a good gesture. It is what it is. There's really not much else I can say here. Edie, you got anything to say about it?
I'm just going to echo your thoughts. I mean, in the past few years, it's been awarded to people out. I can't think of, off the top of my head of the people who've entered the Hall of Fame Warrior wing. I really can't. But I think Jarius JJ Robertson, I think one was last year's one.
Yeah, he was last year. And who else have we had here? I'm trying to look and see if I can find the wing here with the Warrior Award. It's not all in one place, so it's a little harder to look at.
Have they inducted non-wrestlers in Hall of Fame? Or is it the first time they're inducting them?
Yeah, but this one is kind of somewhat different, unlike that celebrity. Well, let's see. Of course, Connor the Crusher, Mikulik, that's where it all started for the Warrior Award. And then they inducted Joan London in, it was Connor in 2015. It was Joan London in 2016. In 2017, it was Eric LeGrand. In 2018, it was Jarius J.J. Robertson. And of course, this year it's Sue Atchison.
So they don't induct wrestlers in this one.
No.
Yeah, so the past 4 years, it's just been people outside of the WWE who've shown immense courage or been through adversity and come out of it, or still dealing with said adversity. This is the first year in which WWE are rewarding someone, within
the company.
So the past 4 years have been from the macro environment. This is a lot more like the micro environment and people within the company. I'm glad that they're doing that, because there's so many unsung heroes within the WWE, under the WWE banner, that are not wrestlers, that are not on-screen personalities, that are just backstage doing everything they can to help the community, help the community thrive as part of the WWE company. And after reading about her and what she's done for this company over 30 years, 3 decades of work, just one company, one common goal, is just something incredible, and of course she does deserve to be rewarded. I can't wait to see her induction speech. I do not know much about her, but she has definitely deserved the spot in the Hall of Fame.
I agree. You have anything to add, Yusuf?
No.
Alright, then we can just leave it at that and wrap this up. And that's gonna do it for all of us here at AWN. I have to say, this is a not too bad Hall of Fame class. It's got some good people who are forced to go in, and some, of course, maybe more than others, but again, it's definitely gonna be interesting how things go. And I have to say, I can't really complain too much. Of course, there's still other things and gripes I have, but things are what they are, and it is a nice little side thing here. And yeah, congrats to all the people getting inducted. I want to thank everyone here who's with me as well, Hebe and Yasif as well. Say bye, fellas.
See you guys later.
And yeah, thanks for watching. And I don't know if this will go up before the WrestleMania podcast or after, but either way, you don't want to miss the WrestleMania predictions video. Let's just say things are gonna be real crazy.
Yeah, honestly, I'll know more about that than I know about Hall of Famer because, yeah.
Well, you did your best. You did your best, man.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, you did. And anyways, yeah, so we'll be back for that, and thanks for watching. Till next time, bye for now.